"Fly this helicopter and I'll marry you." CEO mocked the janitor, his real secret. Left her speechless. Morning rain hammered against the glass windows of the Kensington Aerospace Building like thousands of tiny drummers announcing something important was about to happen. On the rooftop helipad, 40 stories above Seattle's bustling streets, CEO Chloe Kensington stood with her phone pressed so hard against her ear that it left a red mark on her cheek. Her black suit was getting damp from the rain, but she didn't care. She had exactly 23 minutes to get across the city for the most important meeting of her life. The helicopter sat there like a sleeping giant, its blue and white paint gleaming even in the gray morning light. The keys were in the ignition. The fuel tank was full. Everything was perfect except for one terrible problem. There was no pilot. Her regular pilot had called 5 minutes ago from a hospital bed with a broken wrist from a car accident. Every backup pilot in the city was either booked or too far away to help. Her two assistants, Jordan and Marianne, were making frantic phone calls, their voices getting more desperate with each "no" they heard. That's when the stairwell door opened and a man in a gray janitor's uniform stepped onto the rooftop, carrying a mop and bucket. He looked at the scene, the helicopter, the panicking executives, the CEO who looked like she might explode from stress, and he said 4 words that changed everything. "I can fly it." Marianne actually laughed out loud, a harsh sound that cut through the rain like a knife. Jordan's mouth fell open like he was trying to catch raindrops. Chloe turned slowly to look at the janitor, taking in his worn uniform, the cleaning supplies in his hands, the quiet way he stood there without flinching under their stares. She recognized him vaguely as one of the night shift workers who cleaned the executive floors. Sometimes she'd seen him with a small boy who drew pictures in a notebook while his father worked. The man's name tag read Liam in faded letters. Chloe's eyes narrowed as she studied him. There was something different about the way he stood, something in his posture that didn't match the mop in his hand. But she didn't have time to analyze it. The clock was ticking, and her entire company's future depended on this meeting. She walked closer to him, her heels clicking on the wet concrete, and looked him straight in the eye. "You're telling me you can fly a Bell 407 helicopter?" she asked, her voice dripping with skepticism. Liam nodded once, simply. "Yes, ma'am." The rain was getting heavier now, soaking through everyone's clothes, but nobody moved. The moment felt frozen in time. Then Chloe did something cruel, something she would later regret more than anything else in her life. She smiled coldly and said, "Fly this helicopter and I'll marry you." It was meant to be a joke, a way to humiliate this janitor who dared to think he could help. But Liam didn't smile or frown or react at all. He just set down his mop, walked to the helicopter, and climbed into the pilot's seat. What happened next would be burned into Chloe's memory forever. Liam's hands moved over the controls with the grace of a concert pianist playing a familiar song. He didn't fumble or hesitate or look confused. He went through the pre-flight check with the speed and precision of someone who had done it thousands of times before. The engine roared to life and the rotor blades began to spin, slowly at first, then faster, creating a wind that pushed the rain sideways. Chloe stood there, her wet hair whipping around her face, watching in complete shock. This wasn't possible. Janitors didn't know how to fly helicopters. But the evidence was right in front of her eyes. Liam was adjusting settings, checking gauges, communicating with air traffic control through the radio, all with the calm confidence of a professional pilot. Marianne grabbed Chloe's arm. "You can't seriously be thinking about getting in there with him," she shouted over the noise of the rotors. But Chloe was already moving toward the helicopter. She didn't have a choice. The meeting with Skitech Industries would determine whether her company survived or went bankrupt. 8 figures were on the line. 300 jobs depended on this deal. Her father's legacy was at stake. She climbed into the passenger seat, her hands shaking as she fastened the safety harness. Liam handed her a headset without looking at her. His focus was entirely on the controls, on the sky, on the job at hand. "Ready?" His voice came through the headset, clear and professional. Chloe could only nod. The takeoff was so smooth that Chloe barely felt it. One moment they were on the rooftop. The next they were rising into the gray Seattle sky, the building shrinking below them. She looked down and saw Marianne and Jordan standing in the rain, their mouths open in disbelief, looking like tiny dolls from this height. Then she looked at Liam. His face was completely calm, almost peaceful as he piloted the helicopter through the rain. His hands moved with a delicate precision that spoke of years of training and experience. He wasn't just flying the helicopter, he was dancing with it, making tiny adjustments that kept them perfectly stable despite the wind and rain. They flew over Elliott Bay, the dark water churning below them. Liam navigated through the designated air corridors without even glancing at the GPS, like he had the entire map of Seattle's airspace memorized. Other aircraft appeared and disappeared in the clouds around them, but Liam always knew exactly where they were, always maintained the perfect distance, always stayed exactly where he was supposed to be. Chloe found herself gripping the edge of her seat, not from fear, but from awe. She had flown in helicopters many times before with professional pilots, but she had never experienced anything like this. This wasn't just competent flying, this was artistry. "Where did you learn to fly like this?" she finally managed to ask through the headset. Liam was quiet for a moment, his eyes scanning the instruments. "I used to do this for a living," he said simply, "but a long time ago." Chloe wanted to ask more questions, but something in his tone told her not to push. Not yet. They landed at the Skytech building 12 minutes after takeoff. The touchdown was so gentle that the coffee cup in the center console didn't even ripple. Liam powered down the engine with the same calm efficiency he had shown throughout the flight. He removed his headset, climbed out, and stood by the helicopter in the rain, waiting. Chloe sat frozen in her seat for a moment, trying to process what had just happened. A janitor, a man who mopped floors and emptied trash cans, had just flown her across the city with more skill than any pilot she had ever hired. Her mind was spinning with questions, but she didn't have time for answers. The SkiTech executives were waiting inside, watching through the glass doors. She climbed out of the helicopter on shaking legs and walked toward the building. At the entrance, she turned back to look at Liam. He was still standing by the helicopter, rain running down his face, looking like the loneliest man in the world. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice barely audible over the rain. Liam looked at her with tired eyes. "Someone who used to matter," he said quietly. Then he turned away, climbed back into the helicopter, and Chloe had to go inside for her meeting. She spent the next hour talking about contracts and profits and delivery schedules, but her mind kept drifting back to the rooftop, to the man in the janitor's uniform who had saved her company with skills he kept hidden. When the meeting ended successfully, the contract signed and sealed, she rushed back outside. But the helipad was empty. Liam was gone, and so was the helicopter. That evening, Chloe did something she had never done before. She went down to the janitorial office in the basement of her building. It was a small, cramped room that smelled like cleaning supplies and old coffee. The supervisor, an older man named Carl, looked shocked to see her there. "Can I help you, Miss Kensington?" he asked nervously. "Tell me about Liam Walker," she said. Carl shifted uncomfortably. "He's a good worker. Always on time, never complains. Quiet guy. Brings his kids sometimes when he can't find a babysitter, but the boy never causes trouble. Just sits and draws while his dad works." Chloe nodded slowly. "How long has he worked here?" "About 8 months, Carl said. "Showed up one day asking if we had any openings. Didn't even have a resume. Just said he needed work and would take anything. I almost didn't hire him, but something about him, I don't know. He seemed like he really needed the job." After leaving Carl's office, Chloe went back to her own office and did something else she rarely did. She made a personal call. She had an old friend from college, Marcus, who worked in military personnel records. She asked him to look up Liam Walker. Marcus called back an hour later, and his voice was different, serious and respectful. "Chloe, this guy is the real deal. Captain Liam Walker, Army Aviation. 2 tours in Afghanistan. Medal of Valor, Distinguished Flying Cross, Air Medal with 12 oak leaf clusters. The man's a genuine hero." Chloe's hand tightened on the phone. "What happened? Why did he leave?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. His wife died in a car accident 3 years ago. She was pregnant. The baby survived but was premature. Walker was overseas when it happened. He came home, resigned his commission, and disappeared from the system. "Chloe, this guy saved dozens of lives over there. There's a story here about him flying into an active combat zone to evacuate wounded soldiers. RPGs flying everywhere, his helicopter taking hits, and he still got everyone out alive." The next few days passed in a blur for Chloe. She found herself watching for Liam in the hallways, catching glimpses of him pushing his cleaning cart, mopping floors, always with his head down, always quiet. She started staying late, pretending to work, but really she was observing him. She saw him bring his son, Finn, to work when the boys' school had a teacher planning day. Finn was small for a 5-year-old with blonde hair and his father's quiet demeanor. He would sit in the hallway with his notebook, drawing helicopters and airplanes with crayons, completely absorbed in his own world. She watched Liam heat up a simple dinner of mac and cheese in the break room microwave, carefully testing the temperature before giving it to Finn. She saw him read to his son from a worn picture book, doing different voices for all the characters, even though he looked exhausted. She saw him carry Finn to the medical office one night when the boy had a fever, cradling him gently, whispering reassurances. Through it all, Liam never asked for help, never complained, never seemed to expect anything from anyone. One night, Chloe was working late when she heard a sound from the simulation room. She walked over and looked through the glass door. Liam was in there with Finn, and they were sitting in one of the helicopter simulators. Liam wasn't touching the controls. He was just sitting there, letting Finn pretend to fly, making engine noises with his mouth, telling his son about the clouds and the sky and how beautiful the world looked from up high. Finn's face was glowing with joy, and for just a moment, Liam smiled too. It was the first time Chloe had seen him smile, and it transformed his entire face. She realized then that this wasn't just a man who had lost everything. This was a man who was trying to rebuild something from the ashes, one day at a time, one moment with his son at a time. A week after the helicopter incident, Chloe called a meeting with her senior staff. She had made a decision that would shock everyone. "I want to create a new position," she announced. Chief Aviation Safety Coordinator. The person would oversee all our helicopter operations, pilot training, and safety protocols. Mary Ann looked confused. "But we already have a safety department." Chloe nodded. "This would be above that. This person would report directly to me." She paused, then said the words that made everyone gasp. "I want to offer it to Liam Walker." The conference room erupted in protests. Mary Ann's voice was the loudest. "The janitor? Are you insane? He has no qualifications, no degree, no experience that we know of." Chloe pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. "Captain Liam Walker. 2 tours in Afghanistan. Logged over 3,000 flight hours in combat zones. Medal of Valor. Distinguished Flying Cross. More commendations than anyone in this room could earn in 10 lifetimes." The room went silent. Jordan picked up the folder with shaking hands and started reading. His face went pale. This can't be the same person. But it was. Chloe had done her research thoroughly. She had even found news articles about Liam's heroics, though they were buried deep in military publications. One story described how he flew through a sandstorm to reach a crashed convoy, landed under enemy fire, and evacuated 8 wounded soldiers. Another told of him flying medical supplies to a forward operating base that had been cut off for weeks, navigating through mountain passes so narrow that his rotor blades nearly touched the cliff walls. "Why?" Mary Ann asked finally. "Why would someone like this work as a janitor?" Chloe's voice was soft. "Because sometimes life breaks you in ways that no metal can fix. His wife died. He has a son to raise. He needed a job that would let him be invisible, that wouldn't demand anything from him except showing up and doing simple work. He needed to disappear." She stood up. "But he saved our company. He flew that helicopter when no one else could. And She paused, remembering her cruel joke about marriage. "I owe him more than just a thank you." The hardest part was finding Liam to make the offer. He had become even more invisible since the helicopter incident, working different shifts, avoiding the executive floors. Finally, Chloe found him in the parking garage at midnight, loading his cleaning supplies into an old Toyota Corolla. Finn was asleep in the back seat, his notebook clutched against his chest. "Liam!" she called out. He turned, saw her, and his shoulders tensed like he was preparing for something bad. "Miss Kensington," she walked closer, her heels echoing in the empty garage. "I know who you are," she said simply. "I know what you did in Afghanistan. I know about your wife." Liam's face went very still. "What do you want?" "I want to offer you a job. A real job. Chief Aviation Safety Coordinator. 6-figure salary, full benefits, regular hours so you can be home with Finn." She pulled out the offer letter she had prepared. "You'd be overseeing all our flight operations, teaching our pilots, making sure everyone gets home safe." Liam looked at the letter but didn't take it. "I don't fly anymore," he said quietly. "You flew last week," she pointed out. "That was different. You needed help." "And now I'm trying to help you," Chloe said. "Liam, you don't belong in a janitor's uniform. You have skills, knowledge, experience that could save lives. We need you." Liam looked back at his car, at his sleeping son. "Finn needs stability. He needs a father who comes home every night. He already lost his mother. I can't risk—" His voice broke slightly. "I can't risk leaving him alone." Chloe's heart ached at the pain in his voice. This job would be Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. No travel required. Full medical coverage for both of you. There's even an on-site daycare for after school. She paused. "Liam, I know I made a cruel joke that day on the rooftop. About marriage. I'm sorry. It was wrong, and you deserve better. You deserve to be recognized for who you really are." For a long moment, Liam just stood there in the fluorescent light of the parking garage, looking older than his 32 years. Finally, he spoke. "My wife Sarah loved to fly. Not pilot, just fly. As a passenger. She used to say it was like touching heaven." His voice was thick with memory. "When she died, I couldn't even look at a helicopter without seeing her face. Every time I heard rotor blades, I heard her voice on that last voicemail, telling me she loved me, telling me about the baby moving, telling me to fly safe and come home soon." He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "I came home, but she wasn't there. Just Finn, 2 months premature, fighting to breathe in an incubator. And I promised him I'd never leave him. I'd never be the dad who wasn't there." Chloe felt tears running down her own face. "You won't be," she said. "This job, it's not about flying missions. It's about teaching, supervising, making sure other people fly safe. You can do that. You can use everything you learned to help others and still be home every night to tuck Finn into bed." Liam finally took the offer letter, reading it carefully. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. "Really?" Chloe thought about lying, about giving some corporate answer about utilizing human resources. But she told the truth instead. "Because I've spent 3 years building walls around myself after someone I loved left me. I've been so focused on protecting myself that I forgot what it means to really see people. You reminded me. The way you are with Finn, the way you quietly do what needs to be done without asking for recognition or reward. You're the kind of person my father would have respected. The kind of person this company needs." She paused. "And because you saved my company when you had every reason to let me fail after how I treated you. That's not something I can forget." Liam folded the letter carefully and put it in his pocket. "Can I think about it?" he asked. "Of course," Chloe said. "Take all the time you need." She started to walk away, then turned back. "Liam, that day on the rooftop, when I said I'd marry you if you flew the helicopter, you flew it perfectly. So technically," she smiled sadly, "I suppose I owe you a wedding." For the first time since she'd met him, Liam actually laughed. It was quiet, just a soft chuckle, but it was real. "Miss Kensington, I think we both know that was a joke. Besides," he looked back at Finn sleeping in the car, "I'm not ready for that. Maybe I never will be. Sarah was... she was everything. I'm just trying to be half the parent she would have been." Chloe nodded, understanding completely. "She would be proud of you," she said softly. "The way you love that little boy, the way you've survived something that would destroy most people. She would be so proud." Liam's eyes filled with tears again, and this time he didn't wipe them away. "Thank you," he whispered. 3 days later, Liam accepted the job offer. He showed up on his first day wearing a proper suit that didn't quite fit right, looking uncomfortable but determined. Chloe introduced him to the aviation team, telling them about his military experience, his expertise, his valor. She watched their faces change from skepticism to awe as she listed his accomplishments. Bill Harrison, their senior pilot who had been flying for 20 years, actually stood up and saluted. "It's an honor to work with you, Captain Walker," he said. Liam shifted uncomfortably. "Just Liam is fine," he said. "I'm not a captain anymore." "With respect, sir," Bill said. "You'll always be a captain to those of us who understand what you did over there." The transformation in the aviation department was immediate and remarkable. Liam implemented new safety protocols that reduced their incident rate to 0 within 2 months. He created training programs that even experienced pilots said made them better. He had a way of explaining complex maneuvers that made them seem simple, and his calm presence in the simulation room helped nervous new pilots find their confidence. But the biggest change was in Liam himself. Slowly, week by week, he began to come alive again. He started eating lunch with other employees instead of alone. He smiled more often. He even started telling stories about his flying experiences, carefully edited to be appropriate for civilian ears. Finn thrived in the company daycare, making friends for the first time. Chloe would often see Liam walking him to the daycare in the morning, Finn chattering excitedly about something he'd learned, Liam listening with complete attention. Sometimes she would join them, and Finn would show her his latest helicopter drawing, explaining in great detail how the rotors worked and why helicopters were better than airplanes. "Because they can hover," he would say seriously, "like hummingbirds. Daddy says helicopters are like mechanical hummingbirds." One day, about 3 months after Liam started his new position, Chloe found him in the simulation room after hours. He was sitting in the helicopter simulator, not running a program, just sitting there with his hands on the controls. "Thinking about flying again?" she asked gently. Liam looked up at her. "Every day," he admitted. "But thinking and doing are different things." Chloe sat down in the co-pilot seat. "What would Sarah say?" she asked. "If she could see you now?" Liam was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "She'd probably say I was being stupid. She'd say that not using my gift was like keeping a bird in a cage." He managed a small smile. "She had a way with words. Always knew just what to say to kick me in the rear when I needed it." 6 months after that day on the rooftop, Chloe organized a company family day. Employees could bring their families to see where they worked, try the flight simulators, and enjoy a barbecue on the rooftop. She didn't expect Liam to participate much, but he surprised her. He gave a presentation about helicopter safety to a group of fascinated kids, letting them sit in a real helicopter and wear pilot helmets. Finn stood next to his father the whole time, beaming with pride. During the barbecue, Chloe found herself sitting next to Liam and Finn at a picnic table. Finn was drawing, as always, but this time he was drawing 3 people in a helicopter. "That's Daddy," he explained to Chloe, pointing to the pilot. "That's me," he pointed to a small figure in the back. "And that's you," he pointed to the co-pilot. Chloe was touched. "Why am I in your drawing, Finn?" The boy looked up at her with serious eyes. "Because you gave Daddy a smile back," he said simply. "He smiles now. He didn't used to smile." Liam's face turned red. "Finn!" But Chloe reached over and squeezed Liam's hand. "He's right," she said. "You smile now. It's nice to see." They sat there for a moment, hands touching, watching Finn draw. It wasn't romantic, not exactly. It was something else. 2 broken people recognizing each other, understanding each other, slowly learning to trust again. "You know," Liam said quietly, "that joke you made about marriage." On the rooftop, Chloe tensed. "I'm still sorry about that. It was cruel." "No," Liam said. "I mean, what if it wasn't a joke?" Chloe turned to stare at him. "What?" Liam's face was serious, but there was something soft in his eyes. "I'm not saying now. I'm not saying soon. But maybe someday. When we're both ready. When we've both healed a little more. Maybe we could try being friends first. See where it goes." Chloe felt her heart skip. "Liam Walker, are you asking me out?" "I'm asking if you'd like to have coffee sometime." he said. Just coffee. Just talking. No helicopters, no emergencies, no job titles. Just two people getting to know each other. Before Chloe could answer, Finn looked up from his drawing. "Daddy likes you," he announced. "He said you're smart and pretty and you remind him that there are still good people in the world." "Finn!" Liam groaned, covering his face with his hands. Chloe laughed, really laughed for the first time in years. "Well, Finn, I like your daddy too. He's brave and kind, and he reminds me that there are still heroes in the world." 1 year later, on a clear Seattle morning, Liam Walker flew a helicopter again. Not for an emergency, not for a rescue, but for joy. He took Chloe and Finn up over the city, showing them the mountains in the distance, the islands dotting the sound, the way the sunrise turned everything gold. Finn wore a tiny headset and provided commentary about everything he saw. Chloe sat in the co-pilot seat, her hand resting on Liam's arm, feeling the steady confidence in his movements. They weren't married. That joke from the rooftop had become something of a running gag between them. But they were together, slowly and carefully building something new from the broken pieces of their pasts. Liam had started flying rescue missions for the local hospital on weekends, using his skills to save lives again. Chloe had learned to open her heart, to trust, to see people for who they really were instead of what they appeared to be. And Finn had two people who loved him, who showed up for his school plays and soccer games, who tucked him in at night and told him stories about helicopters and heroes, and how sometimes the best things come from the worst situations. As they flew over the Kensington Aerospace Building, Chloe remembered that desperate morning on the rooftop. "Fly this helicopter and I'll marry you," she had said, meaning it as mockery. Now, a year later, she thought maybe it hadn't been a joke at all. Maybe it had been prophecy. Maybe sometimes the universe puts you exactly where you need to be, even if you don't understand it at the time. "What are you thinking about?" Liam asked through the headset. Chloe smiled. "Just remembering the day a janitor saved my company and changed my life." Liam squeezed her hand. "Funny," he said. "I was thinking about the day a CEO gave me a reason to fly again." Below them, Seattle woke up to a new day, and in the helicopter, three people who had found each other in the most unexpected way flew toward their future, together. The story of the CEO who mocked a janitor only to discover his incredible secret spread through the company and beyond. But for Chloe and Liam, it wasn't about the dramatic revelation or the irony of that morning on the rooftop. It was about what came after. The slow, patient work of healing, of learning to trust, of building a family from the ashes of loss. 2 years after that fateful helicopter flight, Liam did propose to Chloe, properly this time, with Finn holding the ring. She said yes, and they were married in a small ceremony on the same rooftop where they had first met as CEO and janitor. Bill Harrison, the senior pilot, officiated. Finn was the ring bearer. And yes, they arrived at their reception in a helicopter with Liam flying and Chloe by his side, because sometimes life comes full circle in the most beautiful ways. The title of their story: "Fly this helicopter and I'll marry you." CEO mocked the janitor. His real secret left her speechless. Became legend in their company. A reminder that you never really know who someone is until you take the time to truly see them. And that heroes don't always wear capes or uniforms. Sometimes they wear janitor's clothes and push mop buckets, waiting for the moment when they're needed most.